Shweta, because it is one of my favorite images that you've created. Tell us a little bit about the story behind creating an image with Shweta, with an iconic face like that, and what goes into making someone feel comfortable.
Well, see, honestly, she's absolutely a great person to work with to begin with. And when I started shooting with her, she was coming back, into the whole glam zone and all of that. And obviously, she had her apprehensions. But the idea was to kind of connect with her. The idea was to make her feel comfortable. And the idea was to kind of explore a different side of her which the world hasn't seen, which she hasn't seen of her own self. And I think we got along really well. The only thing that I told her was if the picture does not look good, we won't use it, don't worry. And then, I mean, obviously over the period of time and doing more shoots, the trust got built up. And yeah, I mean, everybody really celebrated her images, and I'm so happy about it.
Amit, what we also want you to highlight, since it's World Photography Day, tell us a little bit about your story for all those seeking inspiration, for all those thinking maybe it's a little too late for me to jump right in, to really go for what my passion is asking me to do, or my inner soul is craving for. What would your suggestion be? And help us understand this through your story, so it's more relatable, more real.
See, well, quite honestly, the thing is that I have educated myself in hotel management. I have done an MBA after that. And I never really thought that I'm going to get into photography as a profession. It was just a hobby. It was very late in my life, when I was, I think, around 28 years old, is when I decided to be a photographer. And it's been 15 years since. So it's never too late, honestly. I was always a storyteller. I was into film. I was into writing and direction. My movies didn't do as well as I thought of them to do. And I did take up photography because it was always a hobby. I always felt that I can make people look better. And that kind of pushed me towards this. And I think once I got on to taking this up seriously, it kind of immediately worked. So, and it did. It just pretty much worked over 2 months, So I didn't follow any books. I didn't educate myself in photography. It was all through self-learning. It was all through YouTube. And yeah, I think it just kind of landed.
Amit, what's your advice to young photographers who, they're trying to make it in a world where today's algorithms full of AI. So, the kind of photos you do where you're centering celebrities and you're capturing them in this, really, really gorgeous or sensual light sometimes. AI can seemingly replicate a lot of that, and maybe it's going to get better in the next few years. What would your advice be to young photographers about that and about this whole problem of social collaborations? People going on social media and saying, collaborate with us. What's your advice on both those fronts?
Well, see, honestly, the only thing that I'd like to tell them firstly is create your own individual identity, which AI will never be able to do. I honestly feel that AI just kind of creates something which is not what you kind of vision. So I don't look at AI as an hindrance towards photography or anything of that sort, towards art, because art is very personal. And I don't really think that AI can generate an image that's going on in your head. I mean, not that it's not happening right now for sure. Also, I personally feel that imperfections are always more celebrated than perfections. And every photographer who, I just saw a couple of interviews you were taking and talking about rawness. So I just felt that, every photographer sees a subject very differently, which AI sees very generically. And there is a huge difference there. We don't want 1,000 people having the same image, which is kind of AI being the photographer generating that. So honestly, I am not worried about AI. I don't think any new photographer should be worried about the same. Yeah, do create your own individual identity. When somebody sees an image clicked by you, they should know that it's your work. They should not think it's heavily inspired by somebody else. And other than that, coming to social collaborations, I would request every photographer that please don't underrate yourself and work for free. Just do not work for free, because it does kind of, have you taken for granted at times, which is not something which is nice. Because if you're working hard towards something, then you should get paid for it.
It's very similar to something very recently which was spoken of by a model. She too did say that, respect your community, respect your entire tribe, and don't give up on that one thing that at the end of the day comes down to survival. But Amit, tell us a little bit about this element that you spoke of. Why you're not worried about AI is this unique element that comes with your photography. What is that one thing that you strive for when you have your subject right in front of you, when you're standing with your camera? What's that one element that sticks with you when you're photographing anyone?
When I'm photographing anyone, I want to bring out their personality, always. Because I, again, feel that every individual has his or her own story. And by interacting with them, I try to understand them and I try to bring that out. I mean, that's very important because that's what differentiates one image from the other. And I think that bringing individual personality is like, I don't know, I just love it. I mean, I think that is the end thing. And people should kind of understand that there's a story behind this image. That is very important. And every person has a story. So if I have to shoot you, I mean, I'm going to try to bring out your personality, through the image. And that's where I find success. That's where I feel like, okay, I know this person and I've managed to bring out the best.
So do you also end up spending a couple of minutes or hours before you go into the shoot?
So while the makeup and hair is going on, I am quite chirpy and I'm trying my best to kind of understand, the person better. And yeah, that's how usually it works out. So I kind of need to understand their psychology and then make them comfortable during that process and make them believe in me, and then we go for it.
Amit, any bad stories, bad experiences? So what I mean when I say that is, unlike Joseph, who we were talking to right now, who's a wedding photographer, everyone's there on their happiest day. You are working with people of acclaim every single day on their every single day. So I'm sure there are days where, you have a star walk in and they're in a terrible mood, for example. Does that happen?
Yeah, of course, that does. Fortunately, it's happened very rarely with me. Because when somebody is throwing a tantrum on the set, I kind of start throwing bigger tantrums than them also, so that they feel intimidated about me. However, I mean, I've had bad experiences. We've, been shooting with somebody and, the artist almost came 4.5 hours late on the shoot, must be in a bad mood and was not happy with anything, not with his clothes, not with the images. It was like literally he was wearing a turtleneck and telling me that my neck is not showing. So I was like, oh my God. Like that is something that I can't do anything about. So there have been experiences like that, but I think that we just kind of have to deal with it because many times, someone who's coming on set does not want to, but has to, and we need to understand that maybe. But I just feel that there should be respect for each and every person who's working on the set. It could be a photographer, it could even be a spot. Whoever, I mean, we need to respect everybody because everybody's come there for work. So there have been bad experiences, but I think that's a part of it. I mean, we have to deal with it.
I do want to talk about, since the theme this year is narratives and nuances, I also want to touch upon the journey that Indian photography, for instance, has seen. You've spoken of the last splendid 15 years for yourself. Tell us how cameras have evolved, how photography has evolved. What's your analysis been like?
Well, the technology is something which is, constantly developing. Like even in terms of when there are two aspects to look at it. One would be like your equipment that you use. So we have these continuous lights that have been, recently launched. Like recently, I mean, around 3-4 years back, which kind of created a very different aspect of lighting in photography, in fashion especially. We had the mirrorless cameras coming from all the huge brands that, do. We have new lenses that have been like, there's so many, like there are plenty, we could talk about them for hours. And even in terms of post-production, you have so many upgrades happening on, various softwares. And yeah, obviously AI has come in. I would say it has made your work faster, but you can't, like again, you can't depend on it because it does not give you what you exactly want. So it has kind of fastened the process of post-production. But it's not something that you can, like you can't screw up a shoot and be like, okay, the AI is going to take care of it. That's not going to happen.
My God. Okay, Amit, it has been wonderful to have you. We've been showing your photos on the right side of our screens, and we haven't actually been able to. There was that gorgeous photo of Avika God that I think you captured on the train station, and I really wanted to ask you, how did you make everyone not turn around and recognize her? Because that in itself is just magical that you managed to do that. But we have run out of time, so we're just going to thank you for joining us, and thank you for taking out the time for us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, with that, it's time for us to head into a very short breather. But up next, as promised, we talk about world's first video Bhagavad Gita. Prithviraj Shetty takes the Gita digital. How accessible, how easy that has made your ancient scripts. That story coming up next.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
US President Donald Trump met Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky at the White House, marking a high-stakes moment nearly 6 months after their tense Oval Office showdown, asserting that world was tired of Ukraine war, which began with Russia's invasion in February 2022. Trump teased the possibility of Trilateral summit with United States, Ukraine and Russia participating to end the conflict. Now, Zelensky responded positively, saying he's open to sitting down with both Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin to end the conflict that began with Russia's invasion in February 2022. Unlike the February meeting where tension simmered between Trump and Zelensky over Ukraine's security guarantees, Monday's meeting was more open, with both leaders smiling and chuckling as they conversed and took questions from the reporters. Let's listen in.
The war is going to end. When it ends, I can't tell you, but the war is going to end, and this gentleman wants it to end, and Vladimir Putin wants it to end. I think the whole world is tired of it, and we're going to get it ended. It was, I've done 6 wars. I've ended 6 wars, and I thought this maybe would be the easiest one, and it's not the easiest one. It's a tough one.
All right, we're getting some more breaking news in this story after Trump met Zelensky and European leaders at the White House. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said all sensitive matters would be discussed in a dedicated trilateral format, signaling deeper cooperation ahead. He confirmed that security guarantees for Ukraine and the issue of returning abducted children were central topics. Now, calling the meetings constructive, Zelensky said he had a good conversation with Trump and that all sides clearly want to end the war. Now, importantly, he highlighted that the US has given a positive signal regarding security guarantees, an encouraging development for Ukraine's future defense postures. Listen in.
I think that we had very good conversation with President Trump.
Very good.
And it really was the best one. Maybe the best one will be in the future. But it was really good. And we spoke about very sensitive points.
All right, there you heard Ukraine's President Zelensky speaking about this meeting which happened between Donald Trump and himself. Now, my colleague Siddhant Mishra is with us on the phone line to discuss more about this story. Siddhant, now we can say that these are positive signs ahead.
Well, that's right, Arun. In fact, more or less, the leaders looked on the same page. In fact, each one of them got the chance to speak, and perhaps all of them thanked President Trump for his contribution, for his efforts to bring each one of them to the table and to speak to Russian President Putin. In fact, President Zelensky, praised President Trump, and in fact, he said that all sensitive things will now be discussed in the trilateral. Security guarantees and bringing back kids have been discussed, and guarantees which will work for years, and we had a constructive meeting. Now, there are two big takeaways, Arun, as far as this particular meeting is concerned. One, that there's going to be a security guarantee for Ukraine by the European countries in coordination with the United States. So perhaps this was something which Zelensky wanted, some kind of assurance from the United States. And now this has been announced, and in fact, President Trump announces this on Truth Social, that there's going to be security guarantee in coordination with the United States. So that's kind of a big achievement for Zelensky. Also, the second biggest takeaway is setting up a trilateral meeting with President Putin. So in fact, right after the meeting, President Trump dialed President Putin, and in fact, he briefed President Putin about the discussions he held with the European leaders, including President Zelensky. And in fact, both the conversation, the call lasted for about 40 minutes between President Trump and President Putin. In fact, President Putin's aide, Ushakov, briefed after Trump-Putin conversation. In fact, he confirmed that the call did take place. Trump briefed Putin on talks with Zelensky and European leaders. Both backed direct negotiation between Russia and Ukraine, and call lasted for 40 minutes. Now, so far we have not heard from Kremlin about confirmation for the trilateral meeting. They have only confirmed that there was a call made by President Trump to President Putin. Also, some of the publications are reporting that this trilateral meeting could be taking place by the end of August. Now, the location, date is yet to be finalized. So, in a way, it was a big win for President Trump, Arun, because right after his meeting with President Putin, perhaps he was criticized by the U.S. media. He was slammed by the U.S. media, and many of the media commentators at that point in time said.
Welcome back. This morning on The Breakfast Club, we're joined by a young entrepreneur who's taking one of the world's oldest texts and making it accessible in a way that no one has done before. At just 29, Prithviraj Shetty is the founder and CEO of Bhagavad Gita for All, a faith tech platform that combines a beautifully illustrated book with QR codes leading into an app where every shlok of the Gita comes alive through videos, explanations, and lessons for daily life.
Well, it's an attempt to bridge tradition and technology so that the wisdom of Lord Sri Krishna isn't left on dusty shelves, but can actually guide us on how we work, how we love and live today. Actor Sunil Shetty also has lent his voice and presence to introduce the project as a tool for mental strength and resilience.
Let's go over to him to understand more. It is so lovely to have you on our show this morning, Prithviraj. Thank you for joining us. You are just 29, and I start with that question because when one sees you, it is just so lovely to take in your very youthful presence this morning. But tell us a little bit first about how this came to you. So tell me first, what does the Bhagavad Gita mean for you as a text? Had it come to mean a lot for you personally, and you thought this is the way for me to marry this and my passion for tech? What was the story there?
So if you ask me, if I chose the Bhagavad Gita or the Gita chose me, I think it's the latter. I was born on the first day of Navratri, and my first birthday also was on Ganesh Chaturthi. So my parents growing up would always say that, Prithvi, there is some sort of spirituality designed into your life. And I would always wonder what they meant by it. And today in retrospect, I can sort of trace it back and see what they meant by it. I grew up in a family where my father actually built a great education company. My mother, she immersed herself completely in spirituality. And I think from that mix of education and spirituality is where, I can see this. I probably have inherited both of this from my parents. And over the years, I saw a lot of personal transformation for myself as well. I turned vegan despite being from a Shetty family. I don't drink. I even went to London. I was studying at Imperial College in London. I was then studying in Columbia University in New York. And I had great career prospects. And there was always something that was calling me back to India. And that calling was only getting louder and louder. So I think that was to create some kind of impact. And the turning point really came during COVID. When challenges in life were really at its peak, it sort of pushed me to work even harder and search very deeply within myself for some kind of meaning in all of this. And that's where I discovered Gita's true wisdom. And Krishna, I felt like, was guiding me through all those challenges. And I felt like, I had a completely different kind of energy once I started understanding the Bhagavad Gita. It shifted how I look at struggle, challenges, adversity. And I felt like, I could see life in a different lens. And that's when the idea sort of struck, that was the spark, so as to say, where why not make this extremely accessible? Why is it only limited to, say, certain Sanskrit scholars or temple discourses? Why not make it as fun, as relatable as, say, Netflix or Instagram Reels? And with that in mind, with that thought in mind, I merged my roots in education and my heart in spirituality, and sort of blended it all to sort of have Bhagavad Gita for all come into fruition, and sort of have Krishna's guidance available to anyone, anywhere. That is how it happened.
Lovely. Prithviraj, so it actually started from a thought, a feeling, something that you sense so deeply and you wanted everyone else to experience. That's when you came up with this whole idea. But since that one day, that turning point that you just spoke of, to actually making sure that you can translate it into a digital tool which is so accessible to one and all, what was that journey like? How challenging, how easy was it? How much time did it take?
So it's been 4 years in the works. As we speak, we are still putting out episodes. We've completed most of the book in Hindi. English is also on its way. 4 years ago, honestly, had no idea it would become this. Initially, the thought was, let's put a Guruji or a Kathavachak, to actually narrate and explain the Bhagavad Gita. And I met almost every spiritual leader to Guru in India, traveled to so many cities. And during that is when I realized that, we need to make this something really global, not restricted to just India, because that is the culture we have. I think our culture is our biggest export, whether it was yoga, whether it's our thoughts, whether it's our ideas. So that is what we need to take out to the world. And that's where the journey began, that, why not make it as Krishna himself explaining the Bhagavad Gita. Met Saurabh Rajjain, met Nitin Bharjwat, and thought that should we use live action? And that's when the thought came that, we need to make it global. So why not animation? Why not hyper-realistic animation which can appeal to all ages, all, people from all different kinds of schools of thought processes. And that's where we made a motion capture like animation, like the Avatar, how these green screens are there and these cameras and they're capturing so that is actually how we are making this happen. And we had to onboard some of the best studios in Denmark who've made like Disney and Lego and Apple TV kind of content to help us make this happen, because this has never happened in India before. And we've had these experts come on board and help us. And we have a little animation studio, so as to speak, now in place just to make so many hours of content. It was a journey, let me tell you. It was very, very easy to start, but really difficult to see through. So
Really, really cool. Prithviraj, can we ask you one more question? I'm going to bring up your age once again, I hope it's all right. But you're 29. Which of the Bhagavad Gita's lessons do you find is the lesson that you, or the motto that you, or the saying that you repeat to yourself again and again, and the one that you feel is most relevant to people your age? Frankly, the whole Bhagavad Gita is, but which is the one sort of saying that if you could share with everyone your age, you would?
Yeah. So I really think that, in this generation, not just my generation, when I say this generation, I say all the people in this period of time, we are going through a certain kind of, challenge internally. We are thinking, there is anxiety with this social media. There is this sort of thing that we feel. And at the same time, what you wonder is, how to stay cool, how to stay calm through all of this. And that's where the Shloka 2.48, I feel like, reflects very heavily. And that is to be, having the samatva bhav, so as to say, which is equanimity. You see failure, you see success as the same thing. And with that perspective, you automatically become detached to the outcome, because now it no longer excites you and no longer makes you anxious or sad. So that is the samatva bhav. And I think any child, any person entering their professional lives, if they enter with this kind of a thought process, just focusing on what they have to do, not seeing failure as an end, or not seeing success as their, epitome of their journey, but see the entire journey itself, enjoy it, cherish it. Another shloka actually comes to mind is, now that you've spoken to me about it, is 9.27, which says that when I'm brushing my teeth, when I'm eating food, even when I'm doing something great or not something great, Krishna says, offer it to the Creator, offer it to the God. And just offer every action that you do in the day to Him, and you will see your life change, because you are automatically no longer attached to the outcome. So offering it makes it very simple for you to lead your life. It took me a lot of time to understand what this even means, and to see it and to practice, and then to actually practice it. It's amazing. I think anybody who picks up the Bhagavad Gita will have a transformation for sure. That is for certain.
Prithviraj, we actually had a couple of questions on your collaboration. For instance, Sunil Shetty has been a vocal advocate of this entire experience. There are others who've been putting out pictures with this digital experience, and they've been saying you must go through it. I'm going to pick up my copy for sure, but we've run out of time, so we're going to have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on The Breakfast Club. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we're going to be heading into a quick break. After that, gorgeous, gorgeous lesson. We're going to see you in just a few minutes on the other side.
This is News 18 Network. India's India's largest news network.
US President Donald Trump met Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky at the White House, marking a high-stakes moment nearly 6 months after their tense Oval Office showdown, asserting that world was tired of Ukraine war, which began with Russia's invasion in February 2022. Trump teased the possibility of Trilateral summit with the United States, Ukraine and Russia participating to end the conflict. Now, Zelensky responded positively, saying he's open to sitting down with both Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin to end the conflict that began with Russia's invasion in February 2022. Unlike the February meeting where tension simmered between Trump and Zelensky over Ukraine's security guarantees, Monday's meeting was more open, with both leaders smiling and chuckling as they conversed and took questions from the reporters. Let's listen in.
The war is going to end. When it ends, I can't tell you, but the war is going to end, and this gentleman wants it to end, and Vladimir Putin wants it to end. I think the whole world is tired of it, and we're going to get it ended. It was, I've done 6 wars. I've ended 6 wars, and I thought this maybe would be the easiest one, and it's not the easiest one. It's a tough one.
All right, we're getting some more breaking news in this story after Trump met Zelensky and European leaders at the White House. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said all sensitive matters would be discussed in a dedicated trilateral format, signaling deeper cooperation ahead. He confirmed that security guarantees for Ukraine and the issue of returning abducted children were central topics. Now, calling the meetings constructive, Zelensky said he had a good conversation with Trump and that all sides clearly want to end the war. Now, importantly, he highlighted that the US has given a positive signal regarding security guarantees, an encouraging development for Ukraine's future defense postures. Listen in.
I think that we had very good conversation with President Trump.
Very good.
And it really was the best one. Maybe the best one will be in the future. But it was really good. And we spoke about very sensitive points.
All right, there you heard Ukraine's President Zelensky speaking about this meeting which happened between Donald Trump and himself. Now, my colleague Siddhant Mishra is with us on the phone line to discuss more about this story. Siddhant, now we can say that these are positive signs ahead.
Well, that's right, Arun. In fact, more or less the leaders looked on the same page. In fact, each one of them got the chance to speak, and perhaps all of them thanked President Trump for his contribution, for his efforts to.
Welcome back. Now we bring to you a special section on financial markets. GIFT Nifty is indicating a stable opening for Indian stock markets. Today, Asian stock markets were subdued in morning trade. US stock markets closed little changed as investors await corporate earnings still, and crude oil prices have eased as traders are eyeing the Russia-Ukraine situation and also the US peace talks.
Okay, let's take a look at a sector. India's solar sector is experiencing a rapid build-up of solar module manufacturing capacity. The boom has been driven by government initiatives like production-linked incentives, PM Kusum scheme and the Suryodaya Yojana. Aided by 24,000 crores in PLI funding, solar module manufacturing capacity increased from 38 GW to 74 GW between March 24th and 25th. March 25. Solar cell production has nearly tripled from 9 GW to 25 GW over the same period, and the manufacturing boom is well aligned with extremely buoyant demand in the renewable sector. You can log into Money Control Pro to find out more about India's renewable energy sector and other actionable insights on the market. It's the premier destination for all investing views and financial insights that you're ever going to need, brought to you by Money Control.
Okay, that's all for now, but hope we've given you inspiration enough to go back to your camera, go for your favorite photograph shoot if you have any in mind, and not hesitate really from picking up that camera. I think that was one takeaway from all those brilliant voices that joined us this morning.
We didn't get into iPhone photography, but I know that Joseph at least talks a lot about how you can even use your iPhone. So maybe just pick up your phone and give it a try. But anyway, that's all that we have for you. We'll see you tomorrow.
So you've seen the big arc lights here, the flashy cameras, but beyond all of this, journalism is all about hard work. So if you have it in you to make a name for yourself in this hyper-competitive industry, then let CNN News 18 be your platform.
Brought to you by... This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
US President Donald Trump met Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky at the White House, marking a high-stakes moment nearly 6 months after their tense Oval Office showdown, asserting that world was tired of Ukraine war, which began with Russia's invasion in February 2022. Trump teased the possibility of Trilateral summit with the United States, Ukraine and Russia participating to end the conflict. Now, Zelensky responded positively, saying he's open to sitting down with both Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin to end the conflict that began with Russia's invasion in February 2022. Unlike the February meeting where tension simmered between Trump and Zelensky over Ukraine's security guarantees, Monday's meeting was more open, with both leaders smiling and chuckling as they conversed and took questions from the reporters. Let's listen in.
The war is going to end. When it ends, I can't tell you, but the war is going to end, and this gentleman wants it to end, and Vladimir Putin wants it to end. I think the whole world is tired of it, and we're going to get it ended. It was, I've done 6 wars. I've ended 6 wars, and I thought this maybe would be the easiest one, and it's not the easiest one. It's a tough one.
All right, we're getting some more breaking news in this story after Trump met Zelensky and European leaders at the White House. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said all sensitive matters would be discussed in a dedicated trilateral format, signaling deeper cooperation ahead. He confirmed that security guarantees for Ukraine and the issue of returning abducted children were central topics. Now, calling the meetings constructive, Zelensky said he had a good conversation with Trump and that all sides clearly want to end the war. Now, importantly, he highlighted that the US has given a positive signal regarding security guarantees, an encouraging development for Ukraine's future defense postures. Listen in.
I think that we had very good conversation with President Trump.
Very good.
And it really was the best one. Maybe the best one will be in the future. But it was really good. And we spoke about very sensitive points.
All right, there you heard Ukraine's President Zelensky speaking about this meeting which happened between Donald Trump and himself. Now, my colleague Siddhant Mishra is with us on the phone line to discuss more about this story. Siddhant, now we can say that these are positive signs ahead.
Well, that's right, Arun. In fact, more or less the leaders looked on the same page. In fact, each one of them got the chance to speak, and perhaps all of them thanked President Trump for his contribution, for his efforts to bring each one of them to the table and to speak to Russian President.
Good morning and a warm welcome. You're watching CNN News 18 with me, Grihatul. Let's begin with the headlines at the top of 9 a.m. After meeting Trump and European leaders, Zelensky said sensitive issues will be handled in trilateral talks. He called the meetings constructive and confirmed US support for Ukraine's security guarantees. Trump is arranging a Zelensky-Putin meeting, and according to media reports, Trump wants Putin-Zelensky meeting by end of August, after which a trilateral summit will follow. NATO called US support a breakthrough. EU, UK, France, Germany and Italy backed the talks, surging unity, peace and action on Ukraine's security and abducted children. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi to meet NSA Ajit Doval and Prime Minister Narendra Modi after his meet with External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar yesterday. Meeting of all opposition parties will be held at 12:30 p.m. today at Kharge's residence. Name of opposition's vice presidential candidate likely to be announced today. As the Yamuna River surges past its danger mark of 205.33 meters, thousands of residents living along its banks in Delhi face heightened risk. 18 gates of Hathikund barrage opened. Let's begin with our top focus story. In a major diplomatic development, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi is in New Delhi for a high-stakes three-day visit. The first high-level engagement since the deadly Galwan Valley clash in the year 2020. It's been 6 years since then. Now, this visit marks a crucial moment in the India-China relations as both the nations seek to rebuild trust and explore new confidence-building measures for lasting peace along the border. Wang Yi met with the External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, who welcomed the Chinese delegation and emphasized the need to move past recent difficulties with mutual respect and sensitivity. Jaishankar also raised three key concerns, including the fight against terrorism in all its forms. Wang Yi, in turn, highlighted resumed pilgrimages to Mount Gang and also Lake Mapam, Yunso, and expressed confidence in expanding cooperation and dispelling interference. He's also now scheduled to meet with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and NSA Ajit Doval today. This visit could reshape the trajectory of India-China ties in a rapidly evolving geopolitical landscape.
The fight against terrorism in all its forms and manifestations is another major priority. I look forward to our exchange of views. Overall, it is our expectation that our discussions would contribute to building a stable, cooperative, and forward-looking relationship. Our talks will cover economic and trade issues, pilgrimages, people-to-people contacts, river data sharing, border trade, connectivity, and bilateral exchanges. It is also essential that the de-escalation process move forward. Of course, we're discussing border issues with our special representative. This is very important because the basis for any positive momentum in our ties is the ability to jointly maintain peace and tranquility in the border areas.
We maintained peace and tranquility in the border areas and resumed the Indian pilgrimage to the Mount Garampochi and Lake Mapayonzo in the Xizang Autonomous Region. We should firm up confidence to dispel interference, expand cooperation, and to further consolidate the momentum of improvement and development of China-India relations so that while pursuing our respective rejuvenation, we can contribute to each other's success and provide the most needed certainty and stability to Asia and the world. That concludes my opening remarks.
We're getting some breaking news now, and this is as per government sources. We're learning that China promises to address three key concerns of India's, as has been expressed by the External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar. The Foreign Minister Wang Yi assured the EAM that China is addressing India's needs to fertilizers, also rare earth minerals and tunnel boring machines. My colleague Siddhant Mishra with all of those details. Siddhant, this is a crucial engagement that's happening in the national capital. And ahead of that meeting that Wang Yi has with the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, and also with NSA Ajit Doval, these key concerns are on the table. This is a crucial development here.
Well, that's right, Reha. Now we're getting to know. In fact, sources are telling us this, that China has promised to address three key concerns of India, which has been brewing from a very long time, Reha, after China putting export control on some of its exports. And in fact, yesterday, Foreign Minister Wang Yi assured EMS Jaishankar that China is addressing India's needs of fertilizers, rare earths, and tunnel boring machines. So it's a big development, perhaps a big assurance coming from the Chinese side. Yesterday, EMS Jaishankar held talks with Foreign Minister Wang Yi. In fact, the EMS Jaishankar spoke about three mutuals between India and China: mutual interest, mutual sensitivity, and perhaps that is, and in fact, Foreign Minister Wang Yi also spoke about India-China ties and how to strengthen this relationship. And now we're getting to know that China has promised to address three key concerns, which have been going on for a long time. In fact, Indian government did take up this issue with the Chinese government in the past. And now China is addressing India's needs of fertilizers, rare earths, and tunnel boring machines.
What happens next, Siddhant, considering that all-important meeting with the Prime Minister is scheduled for today, and this is happening right ahead of the Prime Minister visiting China for the very first time in these 6 to 7 years?
That's right. It's a very, very significant visit of Foreign Minister Wang Yi. This is perhaps for the first time since the Kazan summit that a high-level dignitary official from China is visiting India. There have been multiple visits from India to China, and NSA Doval have been to China twice. Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh, EMS Jaishankar, Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri. This is the first time that a senior Chinese official, that too, a foreign minister, is traveling to India, and this is ahead of Prime Minister Modi's visit to China for the SCO summit. So definitely it's an opportunity also to lay the groundwork for Prime Minister Modi's visit. Other than this, Reha, there are key issues which India will be discussing with China. The border issue, the border management, the trade through land route, resumption of direct flights. Perhaps that is something which Chinese have been talking about from a very long time. Then more visas, etc. So these are some issues which will be brought up for the discussion during the special representative level talks today, and late in the evening, Foreign Minister Wang Yi will call on Prime Minister Modi.
Absolutely, Siddhant. Thank you so much for all of those details there. And we are shifting our focus. Let's now talk about big developments that are brewing in the race for India's next vice president. The India bloc is expected to announce its own candidate today following a crucial meeting that's scheduled to take place at 12:30 this afternoon at the Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge's residence. Sources suggest that the India bloc is leaning towards a non-political nominee, possibly someone from academia or the space sector with a strong secular ideology, signaling a strategic stand against NDA's CP Radhakrishnan. While the India bloc acknowledges its lack of numbers, it's determined to put up a united front, unlike what we'd seen in 2023 when there was no consensus on the name of Margaret Alva, particularly from the Trinamool Congress. Now, India bloc has emphasized consensus over party lines. Congress sources have suggested that they are not going to insist on 1 million, but one thing is very clear, that whoever is the name that's been announced, unlike the previous times, it would be one on consensus and applicable to all the India bloc leaders. Meanwhile, this is the word that's coming in from the NDA. NDA is all set to formally introduce CP Radhakrishnan at its parliamentary party meeting this today, and ahead of that official announcement that's going to take place on the 20th of August.
पूरे एनडीए पार्टी के पार्लियामेंट्री पार्टी में आदरणीय सीपी राधाकृष्णन जी का फुल फ्लेज इंट्रोडक्शन होगा। हम सब बहुत गौरवान्वित महसूस कर रहे हैं कि आदरणीय सीपी राधाकृष्णन जी जैसे शख्सियत को उपराष्ट्रपति पद के लिए एनडीए की ओर से उम्मीदवार बनाया गया है। नॉमिनेशन हम 20 तारीख 11 बजे करेंगे। नॉमिनेशन में सारे एनडीए के फ्लोर लीडर्स और एनडीए के मेंबर्स ऑफ पार्लियामेंट सबका हस्ताक्षर होगा।
And we are getting some more breaking news. We are learning that DMK is still insisting on a Tamil candidate and possibly a political name for the vice presidential nominee from the India Bloc side. They say that the Congress is supporting them. Meanwhile, Trinamool Congress is very keen on a non-political person and wants the opposition to think beyond a South Indian or a political face. DMK leaders are saying that Stalin is likely to speak to Mamata Banerjee today morning, and then she is expected to convey her party's stand to Kharge. My colleague Payal Mehta with more details. Payal, doesn't look like the opposition is coming, on that one footing when it comes to consensus. And the last time also we had seen these varying views, particularly from the Trinamool Congress, and this time it is Mamata Banerjee and Stalin at possibly at loggerheads. Who knows?
Yes, as far as Margaret Alva's case was concerned, the TMC had in fact, abstained from voting, if you remember last time around as well. The TMC is also putting its foot down, even now saying that they want a non-political figure to, don the candidate's chair. But, on the other hand, it's a dilemma for the DMK, essentially, of Tamil party, because, CP Radhakrishnan is a Tamilian. So, can they be seen opposing him? Can they be seen not voting for him, or should they not, in fact, push? Politically and smartly speaking, you'll have to push for a Tamil candidate. There's nothing wrong with what the DMK really is wanting, but they're not able to build consensus. Silently, the Congress party is very much behind the demand as far as that is concerned. So the TMC also feels that they're being alienated, as far as these leaders are really concerned. So, a lot of phone lines will work, I'm sure, in the morning. We're given to understand that NK Stalin or Kani Modi might even try to speak to Mamata Banerjee and make sense to her that this is something which is going to be extremely important for them because they run into elections next year. And also at the same time, we'll have to just wait and see what the outcome is. The 12:30 meeting will be extremely important because the BJP already is well on course. They've already announced their candidate, and the BJP has decided that, the nomination papers will be filed tomorrow. So all hands on the deck kind of an approach. The NDA meeting is going to take place shortly. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be coming. CP Radhakrishnan, the NDA candidate, will also be coming for this meeting. So, all prepared on one side. We'll have to just wait and see how the opposition manages to pull their stops together.
Right, absolutely. Payal, do stay on with us. We are getting some more updates now. We are learning that in a high-level meeting held yesterday, key opposition leaders held initial discussions to shortlist a vice presidential candidate with multiple names and suggestions that were put on the table. While it was a smaller core group, the process will move forward today with a larger meeting at 12:30. Three key principles have been agreed upon so far. First, a consensus candidate will be fielded. Then the opposition will fight to safeguard the constitution and counter the RSS ideology. Remember, their key argument with not supporting the candidature of Mr. Radhakrishnan is that he is an RSS man. All parties will then rally behind the chosen nominee regardless of identity or background. These are the key developments that we will see go about coming forward in the 12:30 meeting that's been planned by the opposition leaders at the final name of who the vice presidential candidate from the opposition side is going to be. My colleague Pallavi with all of those details. Yes, Pallavi.
So, Griha, we know that there was a smaller section of people who met yesterday. It was online and offline meeting. Those who could not join in physically joined in online. But today is going to be a larger meeting because the final touches will be given to the vice president's name. I'm not going to hazard a guess with the kind of name which is going to be coming up because, one is known to, political parties are known to spring their surprises. But as you rightly pointed out, and that's the information we got, there were three things which were clearly discussed upon and agreed upon. upon. One, we are definitely putting up a candidate. It of course scotches all those rumours and speculations that the India bloc does not want to put up a candidate, and therefore that would have given a smoother sail as far as CP Radhakrishnan is concerned. That's ruled out. Two, there will be a consensus candidate, which means whoever may be the person which has been decided upon will be acceptable, agreeable to all, and no matter what happens, all of them will fall in line and vote for that particular candidate. And third, of course, is that CP Radhakrishnan is seen as an RSS choice. He represents an RSS ideology, which according to the India bloc is what they are fighting against. The constitution principles are being violated. So whoever is going to be chosen is going to represent their ideology as someone who's going to take on the RSS as well as to protect the constitution. Roughly around 12:45, we have been alerted, Griha, that there is going to be a press conference, most probably at 10 Rajaji Marg, which is Mr. Kharge's residence, and it is then that we can expect a clarity by today itself on who is going to be the India bloc's choice. Obviously, they don't have the numbers, but I don't think that's the messaging they want to send out. The messaging is very, very clear that we are going to put up a fight.
Wait, and Pallavi, while you talk about consensus, how is the opposition bloc really ensuring that they don't go about repeating what had happened in Margaret Alvar's case? In this case also, we are looking at some sort of a logjam between the Trinamool Congress and the DMK. And since you don't want to hazard a guess, we were getting in names like Anna Durai and also Tushar Gandhi. How much of that is true?
Well, I mean, there were many names which were discussed, but what we were very clearly told is that none of these names were, even seriously undertaken. People offhand were coming out with suggestions. Some thought that, for example, there does not have to be a political name. There should be more about representative and ideology. Now, if you remember, Gopal Gandhi was at one point of time the choice, and Gopal Gandhi never belonged to any one political party. Trinamool Congress had an objection to the choice of Margaret Alva last time round, but the TMC feels that that choice was taken by the Congress party suo moto, and it was suggested by the late Sitaram Yechuri. We are not going to allow that to happen. So if it's going to be an apolitical choice, then will it be someone who is an intellectual, someone who's an expert in a particular field, and therefore they're looking at possibility of a certain amount of crossover taking place. But one thing they made us very clear, please don't think we're going to think in terms of a state. It does not necessarily have to be Tamil pride versus Tamil pride. Our person will have to be someone who is going to be acceptable to all, and the second, of course, is someone who is going to be an antithesis of the RSS ideology which CP Radhakrishnan represents.
Right, Pallavi, do stay on with us. We also have Payal, who is with us on the broadcast. Payal, we would, again, going back to numbers, opposition doesn't have the numbers, and yet they are wanting to field a consensus candidate. We'll see what happens at 12:45 today. But why do you think exactly is the opposition really pushing for something which is eventually will turn out to be a lost battle as far as the numbers game is concerned?
No, in the battle of politics, you don't take anybody lightly, and you never know whether turns really happen. And we've seen episodes, when at first all leaders have been defeated by, newcomers as well. So that is something which is part of democracy, the beauty of our democracy as well. And therefore, it is very important to understand that the opposition wants to send a message to the ruling side. And we are not going to cow down, we are not going to bow down under your pressure. We know that you have the numbers, but we'll still put up a fight. And given the fact the way the acrimony has really gone in the ongoing monsoon session of Parliament, it's been very, very difficult. The opposition has completely refused to bow down. They've been refusing to discuss anything except the issues that they really want, and that is SIR, and therefore no business has been peacefully transacted. It has been only bills that have been passed in a din. As well. So obviously a big message that the opposition is trying to send, not just to the parliamentarians in the ruling side over here, but also to their constituencies that they've been elected, and they are here to pursue the case of their people.
Right, absolutely, Payal. Thank you so much for all of those details. We're getting an important breaking news now. Let's take a look at that. And this is good news for the many insurance holders, as we are now learning that GST may be removed on term life and senior health insurance. So here's what it means for you. India is at the cusp of a massive change in the taxability of term life insurance premiums and health insurance premiums for senior citizens. We're now learning that the GST Council is contemplating exemption from goods and service tax for both these critical categories. With that, millions will be saved and insurance adoption would be promoted, particularly among the elderly and the middle segments. An important development. Pallavi there with all the details. Yes, Pallavi. All right, we seem to have lost that link with Pallavi, but this is good news for a lot of people as the GST Council is now looking at exemption of goods and services tax from both of these critical sectors. We are talking about term life and senior health insurance. GST is removed from them. These are critical categories, and this will end up helping a lot of people, millions, as many people who put in a lot of money into insurance adoption. All of that is going to be promoted, and this is particularly going to be helping the elderly. Remember, there have been many announcements concerning the GST, and that is leading to a lot of good news. This one is adding to that very list. Pallavi is back with us. Yes, Pallavi. Pallavi, are you there with us?
Yeah, that's right. So, you know, when the Prime Minister had announced that there is going to be a Generation Next kind of a GST, which is going to be more consumer friendly and also something which the MSMEs and the traders and the people are going to be happy about, this is exactly the kind of benchmark that we are talking about. We had spoken about a 2-slab GST. There were going to be many user-friendly items which are used by the people, the middle class, which are now going to either be in the exemption list or the 5% list. Now, insurance happens to be one. The insurance rates which are fixed for the GST slab on them has actually gone up to 20 to 25%, in many cases between the range of 18 to 25%, and there was a concern raised that how will the middle class be able to afford that. Now this is where the good news comes in from. As far as the health insurance for the senior citizens are concerned, that could go into the exemption slab. These are the proposals, mind you, which is coming in from the centre. This proposal will of course have to go to the GST Council. So on the health sector, on the pharma sector, there are a couple of life-saving drugs and medicines as well, which are also expected to go into a range of 0 to 5%, which is exemption to maximum 5% GST. It will be seen as a huge boost to the farmer plus medical sector, but more than that, to the people, to the common man who need to use these kind of medicines or these kind of treatment, and plus go in for insurance. As it is for the senior citizens, the rate of premium is considered to be extremely high while they go in for the insurance. This is going to be a huge boon to them. The entire idea is that the GST structure should be such that the traders community are happy, the manufacturing units get a leg up, they are given an incentive to increase their production, but most importantly, the large number of middle class, senior citizens and people of the country are also happy. And other focus areas, of course, is going to be that of students, for example, education, pencils, all these matters of daily usage.
Absolutely. Pallavi, thank you so much. Remember, the Prime Minister from the ramparts of the Red Fort had made an announcement which was pertaining to GST. This seems like a bonanza offer. Of course, there will be deliberations by the GST Council before actually putting it on the table. But while that happens, here's some good news to deliberate upon. We go into a very, very short break with that.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
US President Donald Trump met Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky at the White House, marking a high-stakes moment nearly 6 months after their tense Oval Office showdown, asserting that world was tired of Ukraine war, which began with Russia's invasion in February 2022. Trump teased the possibility of Trilateral summit with United States, Ukraine and Russia participating to end the conflict. Now, Zelensky responded positively, saying he's open to sitting down with both Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin to end the conflict that began with Russia's invasion in February 2022. Unlike the February meeting where tension simmered between Trump and Zelensky over Ukraine's security guarantees, Monday's meeting was more open, with both leaders smiling and chuckling as they conversed and took questions from the reporters. Let's listen in.
The war is going to end. When it ends, I can't tell you, but the war is going to end, and this gentleman wants it to end, and Vladimir Putin wants it to end. I think the whole world is tired of it, and we're going to get it ended. It was, I've done 6 wars. I've ended 6 wars, and I thought this maybe would be the easiest one, and it's not the easiest one. It's a tough one.
All right, we're getting some more breaking news in this story. After Trump met Zelensky and European leaders at the White House, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said all sensitive matters would be discussed in a dedicated trilateral format, signaling deeper cooperation ahead. He confirmed that security guarantees for Ukraine and the issue of returning abducted children were central topics. Now, calling the meetings constructive, Zelensky said he had a good conversation with Trump and that all sides clearly want to end the war. Now, importantly, he highlighted that the US has given a positive signal regarding security guarantees, an encouraging development for Ukraine's future defense postures. Listen in.
I think that we had very good conversation with President Trump.
Very good.
And it really was the best one. Maybe the best one will be in the future. But it was really good. And we spoke about very sensitive points.
All right, there you heard Ukraine's President Zelensky speaking about this meeting which happened between Donald Trump and himself. Now, my colleague Siddhant Mishra is with us on the phone line to discuss more about this story. Siddhant, now we can say that these are positive signs ahead.
Well, that's right, Arun. In fact, more or less the leaders looked on the same page. In fact, each one of them got the chance to speak, and perhaps all of them thanked President Trump for his contribution, for his efforts to bring each one of them to the table and to speak to Russian President Putin. In fact, President Zelensky, praised President Trump, and in fact, he said that all sensitive things will now be discussed in the trilateral. Security guarantees and bringing back kids have been discussed, and guarantees which will work for years, and we had a constructive meeting. Now, there are 2 big takeaways, Arun, as far as this particular meeting is concerned. One, that there's going to be a security guarantee for Ukraine by the European countries in coordination with the United States. So perhaps this was something which Zelensky wanted, some kind of assurance from the United States. And now this has been announced, and in fact, President Trump announces this on Truth Social, that there's going to be security guarantee in coordination with the United States. So that's kind of a big achievement for Zelensky. Also, the second biggest takeaway is setting up a trilateral meeting with President Putin. So in fact, right after the meeting, President Trump dialed President Putin, and in fact, he briefed President Putin about the discussions he held with the European leaders, including President Zelensky. And in fact, both the conversation, the call lasted for about 40 minutes between President Trump and President Putin. In fact, President Putin's aide, Ushakov, briefed after Trump-Putin conversation. In fact, he confirmed that the call did take place. Trump briefed Putin on talks with Zelensky and European leaders. Both backed direct negotiation between Russia and Ukraine, and call lasted for 40 minutes. Now, so far we have not heard from Kremlin about the confirmation for the trilateral meeting. They have only confirmed that there was a call made by President Trump to President Putin. Also, some of the publications are reporting that this trilateral meeting could be taking place by the end of August. Now, the location, date is yet to be finalized. So, in a way, it was a big win for President Trump, Arun, because right after his meeting with President Putin, perhaps he was criticized by the U.S. media. He was slammed by the U.S. media, and many of the media commentators at that point in time said that, he was overpowered by President Putin, etc., etc. But after this particular meeting in DC, where the 7 European leaders.
Welcome back. Let's now get you some breaking news that's coming from Himachal Pradesh, where we're learning of a fresh cloudburst that has struck the Log Valley of Kulu district in the state of Himachal Pradesh. This has caused significant destruction in the region. The sudden surge of water led to complete washing away of 3 shops, also a vital bridge in the area. Local administration, that's assisted by residents and the disaster response teams, have launched a relief and rescue operation in the impacted areas. We can also put out these visuals for our viewers to help you understand the extent of the damage and destruction that this cloudburst really has caused. So far, thankfully, there are no casualties that have been officially reported, but the situation is closely being monitored due to the risk of further damage or landslides. But this is the situation that is being reported from the Log Valley of Kulu district. In fact, let me take this across to my colleague Sachin Sharma from News 18 India, who's joining us on the broadcast. Sachin, पहले तो ये बताइए कि क्या वहाँ पे स्थिति है, क्लाउडबर्स्ट कब रिपोर्ट किया गया था और जो रिलीफ और रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशंस अभी जारी हैं उसके बारे में क्या ताज़ा जानकारी आप दे सकते हैं हमें?
जी हाँ, देखिए जिला कुल्लू में जो है देर रात से यहाँ पर जो है लगातार भारी बारिश का दौर जारी है और करीब रात 2 से 3 बजे की घटना है जब घाटी के पिछले जो ग्रामीण क्षेत्र है वहां पर जो है ये बादल फटने की घटना सामने आई है, जिसके कारण यहाँ पर जो है काफी ज्यादा नुकसान होने की जो सूचना प्राप्त हुई, जिसमें लग वैली में जो है वहां पर 3 से 4 दुकानें जो है इसकी चपेट में आ चुकी और इसके साथ ही कुछ घरों को भी जो वहाँ पर नुकसान हुआ और इसके साथ ही जो वाहन वहाँ पर जो पार्क किए गए थे उनको भी जो नुकसान पहुंचता है। इसके साथ ही जिस तरह जो देर रात को बादल फटने की घटना सामने आई है उससे जो है यहाँ पर जो शहरों के कुल्लू शहर के बीचों बीच जो सरवरी नदी बहती है वो काफी ज्यादा उफान पर आई है और उसके कारण जो है कुल्लू शहर में जो है एक पैदल चलने वाला पुल था वो उसकी चपेट में आकर जो है वो क्षतिग्रस्त हुआ है और इसके साथ ही जो भूतनाथ पुल के पास जो सड़क जो है कुल्लू शहर को जोड़ती थी उसका भी कुछ हिस्सा वहां पर जो है क्षतिग्रस्त हुआ था।
सचिन, आपके पास वापस आएंगे। वी आर जस्ट कटिंग अक्रॉस टू a conversation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, as he's had that conversation, a very special one, with Group Captain Bhagavad on his return to India. Let's take a look at that conversation.
ये आज के भारत में वो उसको सपने देखने की जरूरत नहीं है, उसको मालूम है कि ये पॉसिबल है।
मैंने जो आपको होमवर्क कहा था तो उसका क्या प्रोग्रेस हुआ है?
और आपसे बात करते वक्त सर पीछे जो मेरे
ये जंग तिरंगा लगाया था,
ये वही तिरंगा है।
और आप मूंग और मेथी का प्रयोग करते हैं?
बहुत अच्छा है सर। मेरे ही क्रूमेट जो मेरे साथ थे साइन करवा के लिख के लेके गए हैं कि जब भी आपका गगनयान जाएगा आप हमें इनवाइट करेंगे और लॉन्च के लिए जल्दी से जल्दी हमें आपके व्हीकल में बैठ के जाना है।
आप लोग जब इतनी बड़ी यात्रा करके वापस पहुंचते हैं,
जी सर,
काफी कुछ चेंज फील होता होगा। जस्ट मैं समझना चाहता हूँ वो किस प्रकार से अनुभव करते हैं आप लोग?
सर जब ऊपर भी जाते हैं तो वहाँ का जो वातावरण है, एनवायरनमेंट है, वो अलग है, ग्रेविटी नहीं है।
आप जाते हैं उसमें तो वो सीटिंग अरेंजमेंट वैसा ही रहता है?
वैसे ही रहता है सर।
और पूरे 23-24 घंटे उसमें निकालना पड़ता है?
हाँ सर, लेकिन एक बार जब आप अंतरिक्ष में पहुंच जाते हैं तो आप सीट खोल के अपना हार्नेस खोल के आप उसी कैप्सूल में आप मूव अराउंड आप जा सकते हैं, इधर उधर चीजें कर सकते हैं।
इतनी जगह है उसमें?
बहुत तो नहीं है सर, लेकिन थोड़ी बहुत है।
मतलब आपका फाइटर जेट का कॉकपिट है उससे तो ज्यादा अच्छा है।
उससे तो ज्यादा अच्छा है सर। बट पहुंचने के बाद सर काफी कुछ चेंजेस होते हैं, जैसे पूरा आपका हार्ट स्लो हो जाता है, तो वो कुछ बदलाव होते हैं और वो फिर लेकिन 4-5 दिन में बॉडी आपकी यूज्ड टू हो जाती है, वहाँ आप नॉर्मल हो जाते हैं। और फिर जब वापस आते हैं तो फिर वही दोबारा से वही सारे चेंजेस आप मतलब चल नहीं सकते वापस आते हैं। तो चाहे आप कितने भी स्वस्थ हो, मुझे बुरा नहीं लग रहा था, मैं ठीक था, लेकिन फिर भी जब पहला कदम रखा तो मैं मतलब गिर रहा था तो लोगों ने पकड़ रखा था मुझे। फिर दूसरा तीसरा, हालांकि मालूम है कि चलना है, लेकिन वो ब्रेन जो है वो उसको टाइम लगता है सर वापस समझने में कि अच्छा अब ये नया एनवायरनमेंट है, नया वातावरण है।
यानी सिर्फ बॉडी का ट्रेनिंग नहीं है, माइंड का ट्रेनिंग ज्यादा है?
माइंड का ट्रेनिंग है सर, बॉडी में ताकत है, मांसपेशियों में ताकत है, लेकिन वो ब्रेन की रीवायरिंग होनी है, उसको दोबारा से ये समझना है कि ये नया एनवायरनमेंट है, अब इसमें आपको चलने के लिए इतनी ताकत लगेगी या इतना एफर्ट लगेगा, वो वापस से समझते हैं सर।
सबसे ज्यादा समय से वहाँ कौन था, कितने समय का?
इस समय सबसे ज्यादा समय लोग एक टाइम पे करीब 8 महीने तक लोग रह रहे हैं सर। हाँ, इसी मिशन से शुरू हुआ है कि 8 महीने तक रहेंगे।
अभी वहाँ जो लोग मिले आपको?
हाँ, उनमें से कुछ लोग हैं जो कि दिसंबर में वापस आएंगे।
और आप मूंग और मेथी का प्रयोग का क्या है?
बहुत अच्छा है सर। मैं इस बात से बहुत सरप्राइज था कि लोगों को इसके बारे में पता नहीं था, इन चीज़ों के बारे में। फूड बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज है सर एक स्पेस स्टेशन पे। जगह कम है, कार्गो महंगा है, आप कम से कम जगह में ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा कैलोरी और न्यूट्रिशन आपको पैक करने की हमेशा कोशिश रहती है, और हर तरह से प्रयोग चल रहे हैं सर। और इनको उगाना बहुत सिंपल है, बहुत ज़्यादा रिसोर्स नहीं चाहिए स्पेस स्टेशन में। छोटा सा एक आप डिश में थोड़ा सा पानी डाल के उनको छोड़ दीजिए और वो बहुत अच्छे से 8 दिन बाद वो स्प्राउट होना शुरू हो गए थे सर, स्टेशन में ही मुझे देखने को मिले। तो हमारी जो ये टिपिकल जो हमारे कंट्री के जो ये जो सीक्रेट्स हैं, मैं बोलूँगा सर, जैसे ही हमें ये मौका मिला कि हम माइक्रोग्रेविटी रिसर्च में पहुँच पाए, ये वहाँ पहुँच गई। और क्या पता कि ये हमारी फूड सिक्योरिटी प्रॉब्लम को सॉल्व करें, जो कि एस्ट्रोनॉट्स के लिए तो एक तरह से है ही सर स्टेशन में, लेकिन अगर वहाँ सॉल्व होती है तो ये पृथ्वी पे भी लोगों के लिए फूड सिक्योरिटी की प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करने में हमारी मदद कर सकती है।
पहला एक बार एक कोई भारतीय आया।
जी सर।
तो भारतीय को देख करके उनके मन में क्या रहता है, क्या पूछते हैं, क्या बात करते हैं, ये बाकी जो दुनिया के देश के लोग होते हैं?
जी सर, मेरा पर्सनल अनुभव जो रहा है सर पिछले 1 साल में, मैं तो जहाँ भी गया, जिससे भी मिला, सभी लोग बहुत खुश हुए मुझसे मिलके, बहुत एक्साइटेड थे बात करने में, आके मुझसे पूछने में कि मतलब आप लोग क्या कर रहे हैं, कैसे कर रहे हैं। और सबसे बड़ी बात ये थी कि सबको इसके बारे में मालूम था कि भारत स्पेस के क्षेत्र में क्या कर रहा है, सबको ये इस बारे में जानकारी थी। और सब मुझसे ज़्यादा तो कई लोग